Alright, we're back with the first big canon event of Rick and Morty Season 7, Unmort Rickon. This was a huge episode, but I'm going to keep my thoughts as brief as possible, otherwise I could go on forever. So, let's dive on in. As I said, Unmort Rickon is the first big canon episode for Rick and Morty Season 7. The Adult Swim president himself teased some huge things to come within this season during their New York Comic-Con panel, and after the promo for this one was released, as well as the lack of the cold open being released ahead of the episode as they've been doing so far this season, fans were quick to jump on the theory that this mid-season shift would all start with Episode 5. And sure enough, fans were right yet again. In fact, this episode confirmed dozens of fan theories from over the years. This one has a lot of long-time arcs colliding together, and honestly, I found it somewhat messy, but also completely genuine and organic. Sure, it would have been nice for them to separate some of these big story elements and tie them off one by one, the Citadel of Ricks, Rick Prime, Evil Morty, the Central Finite Curve, etc. But they're all intertwined, they're all connected, and I felt like this episode was not only premium fan service, but it came off completely natural and nostalgic for me.
It works! Now we can visit infinite universes!
But doesn't that mean infinite other families can do the same?
Buddy, infinite families don't invent the world's first. It works!
There's a lot to unpack within this episode, but for me, the most interesting things were certainly Rick Prime, Evil Morty, and their relative relationships to our C-137 Rick. It's interesting how alike they actually all are. Rick Prime, Evil Morty, and Dead Wife Rick, as he's so called,
Wow, the wife guy! Dead wife Rick!
are actually all quite similar in terms of their intelligence, their pettiness, their cockiness, their drive to put themselves over others and escape the cage of life. Rick C-137 and Rick Prime are definitely the Rickest Ricks out there. They're the only two to have invented portal travel on their own, and Evil Morty is also the Rickest Morty in a way.
Alright, never been a sidekick guy, but I'm starting to see the value. You want a job? We could be like Batman and Robin. I don't need a Robin.
That's why they understand each other. That's why they can sympathize for one another, but that's also why they want to kill each other, or at the least want nothing to do with the others.
Admit it, you would have been me.
Evil Morty just wants to be left alone, and yet every conversation with our Rick, or perhaps I should say argument, shows just how much he loves to get under his skin, how petty he is, how much like Rick he could grow up to be. Which only begs the question, how long until Morty Prime snaps and is put on the same trajectory?
I'll explain. He's worried that it's actually your target, and he don't make credit for the kill.
Are you serious right now? You little narcissist.
Dude, literal glass house.
You think you're better than me?
Jesus, I hope so.
In the end, I actually really liked the idea that Rick needed Evil Morty to help him find and then kill Rick Prime, especially given their pasts and how closely Rick Prime and Evil Morty walk that fine morally gray line which barely separates them. They have both massacred a lot of people, but the difference is that Evil Morty killed countless Ricks and their clones from Operation Phoenix so that he could escape them, while Rick Prime killed all of the Dianes across infinity out of a vengeful spirit of pettiness. True evil, one could say.
Rick, you never told me he killed your wife across infinity. Yeah, now I want to meet this guy too.
I don't want to talk about this.
Evil Morty used one evil plan to escape another, and that's the difference, and probably why our Rick is closer to him than he thinks, or wants to believe. Our Rick has similarly killed a ton of Galactic Federation soldiers, and he wiped out the Citadel of Ricks just so that he could escape their oppression as well. Both are morally ambiguous beings.
Well, yeah, I'm not good, Morty.
But in the end, they both just wanted to be left alone, and funnily enough, both by Ricks. I mean, they only got involved when a Rick got in their way and ruined their life. When you stop to think about it, their motivations are actually the same. It's the paths they choose that differ.
Either you're in or you're out, Morty. I'm tired of you weaponizing this half-assed threat.
It reminds me of this passage titled The Men Who Wanted to Be Left Alone. No one will ever know a scarier vengeance than from the men who just wanted to live their lives but were forced not to by intervention and oppression. And that's an idea this episode plays with and displays with both Evil Morty and our Rick. Evil Morty is also extremely smart. He's vengeful, sure, but he's also capable of holding back, at least for the time being, as he knows where vengeance leads. Around and around in circles it goes.
Because using a weapon like this doesn't get you left alone, Morty. Think I want a bunch of vengeful summers coming after me?
He understands the vengeful spirit, and he wants to end this cycle and truly be left alone. That's what matters to him most. Enough so that he'll team up with his greatest rival to take down their mutual enemy. And in my opinion, this whole episode, how the story, these character arcs, and interactions were handled, all the way down to the motivations within every single scene, displayed to me how masterfully the creative team understands human nature. It was phenomenal.
But there are parts of us that might cost us the things that we really want.
Listen, Rick to Rick, he's got the weapon plans.
There's an implicit choice there where Evil Morty is giving Rick a decision where you can either stay in here and beat the shit out of this guy until he's dead, which is what you supposedly have always wanted. And while you're doing that, that's going to be the reason why I'm walking away with the power to destroy everything you ever care about.
How's it feel? Better? No? Exactly the same? Yeah, it always does. Hope you're happy with your choice.
Off.
I'm gonna. Just don't force me to improve on the design. I can end the Rick experiment anytime I want.
Overall, Unmort Ricken is a satisfying conclusion to years of building arcs. Being the first big canon episode to kickstart a certain mid-season shift for Season 7, it does its job exceedingly well, delivering and continuing high sci-fi concepts, genuine and complex character development, witty and thought-provoking dialogue, and hilariously fun moments of action and comedy relief.
How is the worst turd a pizza?
Every argument between our intelligent characters is sophisticated, funny, and fully realized given each character's arc.
Shouldn't you be turning yourself into a pickle?
What do you care what I do to the curve? I thought your whole gimmick was f***ing off. Certainly what made me a fan.
You're right. I don't live here, which is why it's insane that you're still bugging me.
Shockwaves have more range than I thought.
Jesus, you heard a compliment? A monkey humping a shotgun has more range than he thought.
There are some moments that feel forced, as if the showrunners are cramming all that they can within a tight window to check off all the boxes they feel they need for this canon event. But the story still feels organic, and the humor is consistent with the nice natural rhythm that the first few seasons employed.
You really think a douche that smug doesn't keep a force field on?
Yeah, listen to Pop Pop, Morty.
I'd be an idiot if I didn't check.
So that's the guy? You're exhausting.
Comedy comes in threes.
This is the best from Season 7 so far, and I am excited to see where things go from here. The last thing I'll gush over before I leave you all today is just how genius it was that they used Look On Down from the Bridge at the end of this episode. To me, it's a brilliant song choice on so many different levels. For one, it shows us the shattered mental and emotional state that Rick is in once again. For longtime fans, we immediately recognized the weight of this situation given its similar use all the way back in Season 1, Episode 6, Rick Potion number 9. And secondly, Rick Potion number 9 is also a mid-season shift of an episode, where canonical events of the show were vastly altered as Rick and Morty both switched dimensions after Cronenberging their world. Rick had already jumped dimensions at that point in the show, but what's nice is there he didn't have to go alone that time. He got to bring that same Morty with him, which showed us, the audience, just how important his bond to Morty was back then, even if he is Morty Prime.
Original grandson. This is super weird. Obviously, we're both trying to kill each other.
Oh, geez. Nice to meet you, I guess.
Unmort Ricken explores a lot of ideas, but its main focus on vengeance remains key to understanding just how broken Rick is. He spent his entire life hunting down Rick Prime. That's been his lifelong mission this entire time. And what's funny, or scary I should say, is Rick Prime still kind of got what he wanted in the end. He wanted to give our Rick purpose with a life away from home, devoid of his family, exploring the multiverse in some big boys club. He pettily took away Diane when rejected, and ironically enough, gave Rick a similar purpose in the end, exploring the multiverse, but now on his hunt for Rick Prime. In a way, they've both been on the run for some time. They're both far more similar than Rick C-137 would ever want to admit. And it all collides, all comes crashing down in this mid-season finale.
I just walked into your garage before you walked into mine. But eventually, you did. You lived in my house.
Rick was given the chance to walk away and stop Evil Morty from leaving with the schematics for the Omega device, but he instead chose to beat down Rick Prime until he was no longer kicking. It's a simple enough ending for the two, but man, It's effective, it's pretty much perfect. He chose to complete his lifelong mission, which begs the question, who is he when there is no Rick Prime? Who is he when there's no one left to hunt?
What's your life without me? Let's find out.
Is vengeance truly a path to happiness, completeness, or is it just a barrier? I wonder if Rick is going to start seeing shadows everywhere he goes, start making up new targets he needs to hunt down, new villains he needs to fight. We've been promised a big expansion to the show's world building, so if I had to guess, that's where I'd put my money. I mean, hey, perhaps we'll see more of what lies outside of the central finite curve. But whatever does lie down the road, I certainly expect a big rubber band of emotions to snap back on Rick in episode 6, and so far it looks like Morty will be needed to bring him out of his immediate funk.
Need me for any adventures?
Huh?
Adventures? Remember those?
Oh, yeah, not right now, Morty.
I think I'm gonna give you a little nudge by cashing in a few of these bad boys.
But I want to hear all your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. What did you all think of this episode, and where do you think things are headed in the back half of Season 7? Let me know, and I'll meet you all down there to continue this discussion. Don't forget to leave a like before you go, and feel free to check out my previous reviews using the links in the description below. I also have a bunch of Rick and Morty rankings, which you can check out using the playlist in the outro. But as for now, that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you all next time.
Well, I'm not gonna backpedal every time I do it.